Yeah, this is working. Thanks, everybody. It's been about 9 months since I was at the last BioCaddy all-hands meeting, and so what I thought I would do today is give you an update on what's happened on the CEDAR project at that time. I'm actually going to be relatively brief in my remarks because most of what we've been doing over the past 9 months has been really unglamorous work. We've been working very hard on the architecture, on the interface, on a lot of systems hardening. I'm realizing maybe I'm getting too much feedback, so I will get that from you. I'll ground myself by this microphone. And so what we're really focusing on are what we need to do, I think we need to do to make the system actually deployable. And we're very, very close to that right now. Hours close. Let me start by saying that we have lots of folks who are helping us on the CEDAR project. I want to acknowledge all the collaborators first before I forget at the end. So obviously my team at Stanford, but also the folks from Oxford, led by the ubiquitous Susanna Sansoni, folks from Yale, folks from Northrop Grumman, and we also have a relationship with Stanford University Libraries, which I'm not going to talk about at great length, but I think we're very excited that we can actually apply some of this work that we're doing to our home institution. Stanford is very concerned, as are all research universities, about making research data available. Stanford is involved in a large consortium that I imagine many of the folks here may be involved in as well, to make data accessible to folks where there are not obvious data repositories available. We are hoping that CEDAR may have a role to play there as well. So we are blessed, we think, because the biomedical community has religion about metadata, or at least representing metadata in ways which are structured and reusable. And so this is how the Miami standard looks in BioCaddy. And we're, Susanna corrects me immediately, biosharing. She'll correct me anytime I make a mistake. As a way of just reminding you that one of the things that we're taking advantage of in CEDAR is all the work that's taken place in the community to help build templated structures that are already being used for representing biomedical metadata. And we're taking that a step further by taking those templated structures and actually making them much more computable. Right now, standards such as Miami are essentially checklists. What we're trying to do is make those legitimate structures that we can reason about, that we can think that the machines can use to actually acquire the metadata needed to describe biomedical experiments. And what that means for CEDAR is the idea of being able to translate those templates into a form which is accessible on a computer screen that we think people can fill out. More important, as I sort of alluded earlier, that we hope people will want to fill out because they recognize the importance. And ultimately, we hope that we can apply some additional carrots through structured data entry that will make it easier to fill out these templates than might otherwise be the case. One of the things we hope to gain is not only the ability for people to fill these out with free text, but to take advantage of all the biomedical ontologies that exist that may allow us to fill in these forms in more structured ways that can take advantage of ontologies in a way where search will be embedded, and where ultimately the kinds of metadata that we believe will be altered through CEDAR will have great benefits for a BioCaddy system, which needs to search the metadata and hopefully would like to find things in a more structured, ontologically rigorous form than just simply free text. So our approach in CEDAR is threefold. We're building tools that help the authoring of metadata templates and the management of a library of such templates. And we see real opportunities to be able to build on the kinds of work already going on in the biomedical community, building such templates for metadata description. Also, really close collaborations with, as I'll say in a moment, import the data repository that NIAID, Division of Allergy, Immunology, and Transplantation requires for its grantees. As I'll say in a moment, we will be able to build on that further with links and other collaborators who may help us to actually extend the kinds of templates that are available for describing biomedical metadata. There's a separate set of tools that are represented by the middle panel, which involve the authoring of the metadata instances that comport with those templates, so that for every experimental data set, there'll be an ability to fill out a particular template or set of templates in a way which gives us the information we need to have high-quality metadata. And down the road, we hope that by acquiring all of the metadata that are authored through CEDAR, as you see in the rightmost panel, we'll have our own local metadata repository that we can evaluate and search. We think having this repository will be very valuable, most important for CEDAR, which needs to be able to do predictive data entry. By having a library of already filled out templates, we'll have the basis for facilitating predictive data entry. We also think it'll be very interesting to have that repository for its own query purposes, being able to look at trends in the kinds of experiments people do, relationships among data sets. And so I think one of the things that will lend itself to a lot of potential collaboration will be ways in which people want to make use of this repository as it's developed. Given that we're only a year into this project, we don't have a lot of real users. That repository is pretty barren, but we're hoping that over time that'll be filled out. So ultimately, we can think of the funded components of CEDAR as comprising an ecosystem, where our collaborators at Yale, who are responsible for the standards working group of the Human Immunology Project Consortium, or HIPSI, are working on building templates that ultimately will define the kinds of metadata that are going to be used by import. So import, as I mentioned, is this repository mandated by NIAID for a certain set of grantees who are doing work in immunology. And CEDAR works very closely both with our colleagues at Yale as well as the import folks, managed mainly by collaborators at Northrop Grumman, to be able to build this community, if you will, where the HIPSI folks want to be able to instantiate templates. We want to be able to include those templates in our CEDAR repository library, and we will ultimately be in a situation where the HIPSI investigators will be using CEDAR to annotate data sets that will go into import. So we think this is really a great opportunity to take advantage of a relatively small but very motivated community to build metadata descriptions that we can manage through CEDAR. So what is new over the past 9 months? And I guess I have to put a lot of exclamation points in here to get people really excited about what we're doing, particularly when it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But we recognize one of the greatest challenges we have is to manage this repository of metadata components, these templates, these template elements, and we're building a desktop, so to speak, that will allow users to access their library and shared libraries of these elements to put together the information needed to build the kinds of templates needed for particular experiments that need to get annotated. So that's new from our last conversation in December. We recognize that ontology search is hard, and we don't know whether we're getting there yet. We think we're making a lot of progress. One of the things that we do rigorously in CEDAR is provide the opportunity for the template authors to be able to link the template slots to particular ontologies that are in the NCBio bioportal or portions of ontologies that are in the NCBio bioportal. And to do that requires dealing with a lot of information. Large ontologies, large branches of ontologies, large numbers of ontologies, because bioportal allows basically anybody with a biomedical ontology to propose that it be included in that repository. And so a lot of work in the past year has been dealing with managing that complexity. The other thing we've been doing this year is recognizing that despite the fact that bioportal has more than 500 biomedical ontologies, it doesn't have everything. And we provide mechanisms whereby people who are authoring templates in CEDAR can make suggestions about how ontologies in bioportal might be augmented to include distinctions which are currently not included. So we can allow the authors of CEDAR templates to suggest how the ontologies in bioportal might be augmented by their own developers, and at the same time, those suggestions can be stored in CEDAR so they're available for future use. And so that's been an area of a lot of work, and we're pretty excited by those results. And lots of architectural enhancements. I'm not going to have the time to lead you through the CEDAR architecture. The most important thing to say is we really clarified how things are broken up into this template designer, the metadata creator, and the resource manager. And all of these elements in CEDAR's architecture have their own APIs, so that we are poised. We're not actually in a situation where we have a demand yet, but we're poised that people will be able to access elements of CEDAR independently. So we are putting CEDAR together as a whole architecture, as a whole ecosystem, where we recognize that there are pieces of CEDAR that may be valuable in and of themselves, and so we're making it possible so down the road, people will access elements of CEDAR through those particular APIs in a way that makes sense. And this is the part that makes me cringe a little bit because I know how much work this is. But we're getting ready to go live, if you will, and so that means operations and outreach. So we are implementing support through email lists, going to contact us directly through our website. We're exposed all of our software development through GitHub, monitoring how the system's being developed, putting things in Docker. So a lot of technical stuff that I think is really going to be very helpful in building a community. Because I think one of our challenges is taking a task which basically everybody hates, authoring metadata, building technology which right now is admittedly unproven, and hoping that we can grow a whole community around that. And I think this will be a step in that direction. One of the things we've learned in the past 9 months, which I think is actually very interesting for us, and I think will be helpful as we generalize CEDAR and make it more robust, is that we really need to deal with lots of different kinds of metadata. We walked into this center really focusing on describing the metadata needed for experimental data sets. And that's where we thought the money was. That's certainly what BioCaddy is focusing right now. And that's where, for example, our interactions with import and the new ones with links, which I'll talk about in a moment, are really going to be putting most of their effort. But as I'll say in a moment, we've been looking at metadata for value sets. We had a summer intern, as I'll say in a bit, who helped us look at the kinds of common data elements that NCI has been pushing with respect to representing information needed to build case report forms and other kinds of metadata. Talk about that and how that plays out in CEDAR, as well as the possibility of a new collaboration with BioCaddy representing not only data sets but whole data resources to make those more findable through BioCaddy. So let me go through those one at a time. I said, first of all, import is where we started looking at metadata for experimental data sets. I think that's something that we understand pretty well at this point. What we don't understand right now as well as we would like, but hopefully much better, is our interactions through links. And as Stefan pointed out, I'm stealing his slide again, there are real opportunities here because the kinds of experimental data that links deals with are quite heterogeneous, very complicated, and come from a variety of data providers. And I think what we're going to be able to do in our collaboration with links is really discover how well we can use the CEDAR technology to author the metadata that links needs, to make those metadata available through the links metadata registry, and to basically use links as a very, very large sandbox for trying out some of the things that we have a chance to do in a more controlled manner within import. And so we'll be working that over the next year to look at the ways in which links has already defined metadata for the kinds of experiments it does, translating those metadata into the kinds of computationally relevant templates that we manage in our CEDAR repository, and really see how well we can get links investigators to use CEDAR technology. And the best I can say is tune in next year. What's been very interesting for us over the summer is to look at the common data elements that have been used by NCI and actually a number of ICs at NIH as well, mainly for case report forms, but also for describing other kinds of metadata. And what's interesting about these common data elements, or CDEs, is that they're very different beasts from the kinds of metadata we've been trying to capture in CEDAR to this point. CEDAR, up until now, has been focusing on the experimental data set metadata. CDEs try to capture descriptions of the actual slots in templates, the actual value sets that are used to populate metadata. They're very different beasts, or a different level, if you will, of abstraction. NCI has something called CADSR, and if I was Smart. Harold, what does CEDAR stand for?
Answer Data Set Repository.
Oh, that's very sophisticated. Thank you. Okay. So CEDAR is the repository that NCI is currently using for its CDEs, and they're based. And if you go to CEDAR, you'll find templates that describe not whole experiments, but just individual values or value sets that are all compliant with a standard called ISO 11179. And we've been sort of experimenting with what it would mean to take that kind of a description and put it into a CEDAR template. This shows you one particular CDE represented in CEDAR. And what's, I think, interesting for us, we're not actually moving forward on this yet. We've sort of been doing this as a feasibility study, looking at how CDEs, as they're represented in CEDAR, could get represented as a CDE template within CEDAR, and ultimately giving us the opportunity down the road to take CEDAR templates representing DSR CDEs and include them within the experimental data set templates that we currently have in CEDAR. That would allow us to use CDEs within bench work that is going to be translated into metadata, but also they give us the opportunity to actually create CRS using CEDAR, and that would be actually something interesting to pursue down the road. Over the summer, this student, who's absolutely wonderful, worked with us basically to import all of the NCI CDEs into CEDAR. So it gives us really a nice opportunity to play around with all of those templates. And as I said, we're really very excited about thinking about what it might mean to move into this particular area. One of the things that we've been doing to limit our focus and keep our lives sane is to keep CEDAR focused on experimental metadata that are even coming out of laboratory investigations. But we know that ultimately we want to start dealing with clinical trials and human subjects and all that messiness. And I think this is a way that may lead us in that direction eventually. The other thing that we've been looking at is, again, yet another class of metadata. Metadata not about experiments, not about value sets, but rather about whole repositories. And the BioCaddy folks are already creating models of what it might look like to describe particular repositories. We've taken the BioCaddy model, put it into CEDAR, and we're looking forward to an opportunity to explore what it might mean for us to allow people who are making their data sets and their data repositories available publicly, but not part of any standard repository, interoperate with BioCaddy. So this is pretty complicated. So the idea is, when you look at what BioCaddy currently is indexing, there are lots of standard repositories that are included, but BioCaddy also wants to be able to allow independent data sources to be accessed. That would mean people who have their own data they simply want to make available on some server, people who are managing repositories locally, perhaps even non-biomedical data. And one of the things that we can imagine doing is to allow one to have a kind of template that would be filled in to describe what is a particular kind of repository or data set that one might want to make publicly available, which can then get fed into the usual BioCaddy mechanism. So that's sort of a plan. We were sort of hatching this over the summer. We're at a very early stage. We're pretty excited about not only the opportunity to find another way of interacting with BioCaddy, but also this would provide a mechanism for different kinds of data sets to be included in BioCaddy and for CEDAR to experiment with metadata that are different planes of the kinds of metadata that we've dealt with already. So to summarize, we've been doing lots of stuff over the past 9 months to look at other kinds of metadata in addition to the standard experimental metadata templates that we've talked about already, including value sets through CDEs and this new interaction with BioCaddy. And if we were to summarize our status, well, my slide is not quite right. John's going to hit me. What? Okay, so Version 0.8 of CEDAR, all the CEDAR software is sitting on a development server. It was supposed to have been released today, but it will be released this week. Version 1.0 is coming soon, and we're actually very excited that we're going to have it in a place where it will be publicly available and people can really begin to pound on it. This is actually not only important for getting very diverse feedback, but also making the system sufficiently robust that interactions such as the plant collaboration with links will make sense. Our external advisory board has pushed us, and I think this is a great idea, to have the equivalent of data hackathons, BYODs, where people would bring their own data, play with CEDAR technology, provide opportunities for us to observe those interactions and get feedback. And so we're starting to plan what that would look like, how we could actually provide a structured environment like a hackathon where people would be able to benefit from CEDAR technology and we would benefit from those kinds of interactions. We're still working hard with import. As I said, we have really been excited by the opportunity to see what it might mean to put CDEs into CEDAR. The opportunity with links is pretty exciting for us as well. And not only do we have the ability, we believe, to make better metadata that would make the world's metadata that's out there already better findable and accessible through biocaddy, but as I said, the new collaboration I've mentioned where we can actually try to help people define their resources in ways where biocaddy can find them and know about them more definitively is kind of important to us as well. So that's basically where we are. We are almost ready to make all of this stuff accessible and poundable by people. And hopefully when we come back in a year, we'll have more information about what it means for folks to be using the CEDAR technology and have some war stories that we can then report to you guys. Thanks.